So this is an article I was reading the other day on, let's see, it's on cinemablend.com. The Lighthouse ending explained what happened at the end of Robert Pattinson's horror comedy. But I'm going here. Oh, that's a really good image from the movie. I'm gonna just explain. We'll just, I'll read the first theory, then we can discuss it.
That photo,
this one,
of him like looking into the lighthouse, like the light,
yeah,
reminds me so much of the Indiana Jones.
Oh, the melting face.
The melting face.
Yeah.
Like, that's instantly what I thought about when I saw that.
All right, I'm gonna read this first theory.
All right.
Theory number 1. These are the top 3 theories I believe that people are discussing, by the way. So, theory number 1. The lighthouse is a modern retelling of a Greek myth. The first place one may draw from after seeing the lighthouse is through the subtle use of seafaring mythology that is embedded in the DNA of the flick. Co-writer and director Robert Eggers is known for really delve into researching his work, and The Lighthouse is no exception. The filmmaker told Vox that the idea of fable and myth is in the forefront of his process with his partner and brother Max Eggers. The pair heavily looked into life in the maritime community in the 19th century, and here's where they landed with the story. And then we have a quote about that. But the main reason people are talking about this is, especially what's on the podcast right now for the video format, is we're seeing the ending shot where Robert Pattinson's character is being basically eaten alive by the seagulls, which is basically what William Dafoe's character had said would happen to him if with the curse and everything.
If he hurt the seagulls, yeah.
And so that, apparently, and I'm not well versed in Greek mythology, this is a direct resemblance of the Prometheus and Proteus. Greek myth. So let's see about that. Prometheus is a titan who is remembered for being a trickster who would steal fire from the gods and give it back to humanity. After his misdeeds, Zeus chained him to a rock and sent an eagle to eat his liver, which is exactly what's happening in the photo, which would grow back overnight for the same torture to resume the next day. Prometheus is the sea god. In the Lighthouse's
Proteus is the sea god.
Oh, Proteus, sorry. In the Lighthouse's case, William Dafoe's character would be the god, and Pattinson holds the role of Prometheus. Once he steals the fire, the energy source of the lighthouse, a similar fate to Prometheus befalls on him. And the image is mistakable, like they said, and it's very true. I have no doubt that Robert Eggers was very familiar with this Greek myth when making this film.
And I feel like, before even going into the next ones, that this is the most sound theory.
Yeah, agreed.
Just because it makes so much sense.
It really does.
Like, Pattinson wants to seek the knowledge of the light. He wants to see the lighthouse. He wants to do that kind of stuff. And Defoe's character is guarding the light. He's like, no, you can't have it. You can't ever go to look up there. That's my thing. Like, this is strictly for me. You have to stay down here and do that stuff. So, it makes perfect sense. And I think that this Greek myth thing is the most sound and best theory that we have.
I mean, even in this photo, the way his leg is up and all that, it just looks like something out of one of those Greek paintings, you know?
Yeah.
It really, yeah, and it makes sense too. The whole story about, the two of them fighting each other for the light. And what I really like about this movie is at the end, you don't see what's in the light. I mean, you know something's there, but I like how it's probably like, you can't tell if he's screaming because he's so happy he finally made it, or if he's screaming because he can't tell if it was what he was looking for, if it was worth it, you know?
Right.
And it's really,
and also
really creepy.
the seagull, uncredited, is Sully Siegel, by the way. So, just want to give credit to the acting skills of Sully Siegel.
Well, also, another detail with the seagull. Well, another detail in this shot is that the entire movie, the seagull he kills has one eye. And who the other person who has one eye in this movie is the head of the previous keeper that William Dafoe's character killed. And remember
was that seagull trying to warn?
Well, no. Remember how Willem Dafoe's character said that seagulls are the souls of lost maritimers?
Yeah.
lost sailors. So the whole the whole idea that the seagull is the soul of the previous keeper. Not only does the seagull have one eye like the keeper, but at this ending shot, Robert Pattinson only has one eye left. So
Right.
it's that's like another little detail that's pretty crazy when I read it online because I did not catch that when watching the movie.
So theory 2 is that Thomas and Ephraim are the same person.
Yeah.
So Thomas, Willem Dafoe's character, Ephraim, Pattinson's character. So another theory is that the two main characters in the film are supposed to represent two different sides of the same mind at odds with one another. The movie was inspired by an actual story that involved two lighthouse keepers who both had the same name. As revealed in the film, they are both named Thomas after he took the name of the guy that happened in the logging thing. As Robert Eggers said, the idea of the pair sharing the same name struck a chord with the writers and decided to make a film about identity, which is also interesting. So, thinking of the lighthouse in a more metaphorical sense, the two characters in the film could be representative of the push and pull between Freud's ego and
Freud
it in the brain. Freud. So this, I mean, isn't this your thing?
Freud is basically the father of therapy and psychology. Well, not psychology, more like therapy. Psychotherapy. And Freud's big thing is he's a lot of weird stuff that's no longer relevant today, but a lot of stuff that's still very meaningful. And yeah, the idea of the id and the ego, and like what I think I remember is like the id is your subconscious mind that is, good. It chooses the right things, but your ego is always seeking pleasure. And it's hard to explain, but yeah, I can definitely see this being, I can see Pattinson being the ego and Willem Dafoe's character being the id. And I wouldn't put it past this director to have both these things being inspiration, It's a little harder to explain on the spot, but it's possible. Right. I think it's definitely a theory that could work.
Yes. I don't... But then it's sort of like, okay, so were those two guys actually there at a lighthouse, or is this just something happening in the mind? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that they both have to be real. Or Ephraim.
And the last one...
he's saying... What they're saying is that Ephraim and Thomas, not Thomas Dafoe, Thomas Pattinson. Like...
Yes.
The two minds in the one... that the whole accident was just in his head. That he's psychotic, basically. But I don't know about this theory.
It's a good one. I just think the Greek one is really solid because of the direct correlations. Last one is right. Is this the last one? There's not another one. Which is the theory. It's a commentary on man's complicated desires.
This one is basically... I think this one fits really well as well. You want me to read this one?
You can read this one.
Okay, so this final theory, wrapping up the analysis of the Lighthouse theories, goes hand in hand with the other ideas because they both touch on desire. Without mythology and psychoanalysis at play, the A24 movie is still an intriguing image about man's complex desire and how giving into them out of anger or boredom does not end happily. First of all, I think like the psychoanalysis and the grief thing are not like confirmed, but very much highly regarded as basically what's going on here. I think there is a very deep Freudian psychology root in this movie. I don't know about the whole that, I mean, because the whole idea is they're not saying that Egerton. Now, why I keep saying Egerton? Ephraim. They're not saying that Ephraim doesn't exist. They're saying that inside his mind, Ephraim and himself are playing two different parts of like the Freudian mind, the id and the ego. So, but in terms of this theory about the they explain that the sexual frustration plays a big part in this movie, and it does. Robert Pattinson can be seen as sexually frustrated as images of him and a mermaid together are often depicted, and he and Willem Dafoe's almost kiss during a drunken fight where they're dancing. Pattinson himself supports this theory And he says, isn't it really a love story in a ways, where they just don't know what to do with each other? In so many ways, you're thinking how much of the relationship is actually happening. How much of it is in Ephraim's head. William's character can just be a normal boss, but there's some kind of sub-dom relationship or something where I'm exaggerating in my head his dominance over me because I kind of want it in a strange way. It always reads as a very sensual relationship. It wasn't just about a boss and his worker. Also, he's kind of mad as well. I'm pretty conscious of how I wanted the relationship to come across. In a lot of ways, he sort of wanted a dad.
Pushing each other's buttons out of the threat of who they are.
Yeah.
Both guilty. They say it's a simple story with existential roots and identity things. It's interesting.
Yeah. And then I like this main headline right here. More questions than answers. That's what this movie is. But in a really good way.
Yeah, this movie will not give you the pleasure of, like, closure.
Yeah.
You will be left wondering what happened, and like a lot of the reviews say from critics, it'll, like, after the credits are done, you'll still be thinking about this movie and what has happened, and you'll be trying to figure it out. So don't go into this movie thinking that it's going to be something you're going to understand, because you won't. So,
well, I mean, it's not like you won't understand it. You're not going to, like, walk away confused. You're going to walk away knowing, I mean, you are, but not in a bad way. It's not like a movie where, like, that was a waste of my time, I didn't understand a thing. It was more like, it just leaves you wondering. Not confused, wondering. Wondering what the bigger picture is here. You know, like...
Yeah.
Because I think it'd be a discredit to say it's just plain confusing. Because it's really... It's more like an adventure, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like the director was like, throw that in there because it'll just confuse everyone, it's great. It's more like, this will get people thinking.
It's methodic.
Yeah, that's what I like about it, is like, you're thinking yourself while you're watching this. You're like, wait, did that happen? Did that really happen? Has it been that long? You feel like you're with them, you know? You're like, oh, jeez, has it been months?
Has it been and it's actually not a long, it's an hour and 50 minutes. So it's not a bad, terribly long movie.
Make sure to subscribe so you can see all our other reviews. And also, on our social medias, we have 60-second reviews for movies that don't make a full episode.